Hello and welcome to Speedrun, the fast-talking video game podcast where we talk about pretty much anything weird and retro that we find interesting. Hey, look, I did the thing.
You did the thing. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I'm Jamie.
I'm Jazzie.
And today we are made possible in part by Podbean. Hey, I'm real good at staying on top of this today. Podbean is this really great podcast platform that, well, it hosts Speedrun. And it's why you can find us on Apple Podcasts, the Podbean app, Spotify, etc. And if you would like to start a podcast of your own, which you should, we enjoy it. We enjoy listening to podcasts and want some great paid hosting, then go to podbean.com/speedrun or use the code speedrun at checkout to help us get a little bit of moolah.
Listen, kiddos, listen up. I use Podbean for all of my clients and all of the shows that I work on, record, and edit, and they are what I like to call the shit. And that is straight from Jazzie's mouth. Trademarked.
Would we call them pretty poggers?
I would refer to them as a newly revitalized, not racist anymore PogChamp.
Excellent. The one that isn't the PogChamp emote on Twitch just like a smiling lizard now? I
have no idea. I try my best not to pay attention to the goings on of Twitch. All I know is that they were filtering through a bunch of different streamers, all doing like the face and everything. Maybe it is a lizard now. That'd be cool.
I like the lizard. We like a good lizard boy. But you know what else we like here?
What else do we like here?
We like retro video games.
Oh, I like those.
I like those a lot. You know what I like more than anything else?
Jimmy's mom.
Hi, Jimmy's mom.
I can't believe that made it into our fucking podcast. I'm so angry. More and more of our in-jokes are getting into the show.
They're not in-jokes anymore. They're out-jokes.
What are we talking about today?
So today we're talking about the wonderful world of NES game development. Something that I only learned about, well, actually I learned about when I was a kid, thanks to a little game called Battle Kid and the Fortress of Peril by Savant Games, which made me go on to a big thing where I learned how to ROM hack Mega Man games, and I tried to program one of my own, and then I gave up because assembly is hard. But Jazzie, yes, you were actually kind of decent on it, so go off on it as I start the timer.
Oh gosh, thank you. No, I agree. Assembly is very hard to pick up because it is very old. But we were planning out this week's recording session. I mentioned kind of. Well, actually, you mentioned, hey, I've been noticing you've been doing a lot of Famitracker. Yeah. And I said, oh, thanks. I'm playing around with NES development. And you were like, what? We should talk about that on the show. I said, I will happily talk about developing for the Nintendo Entertainment System on the show.
Yes.
I recently watched a documentary called The New 8-Bit Heroes. And it is about a guy who... is feeling like kind of creatively hungry. So he goes back to his hometown and he goes through like his parents' shed, garage, storage, and he finds his school notebook. And in there were basically all the childhood marker and crayon design documents for an NES game called Mystic Searches. Over the course of the film, which is like a hefty, like 2 hours. Like it's a good length for a film.
Damn.
Yeah, no, he goes through the entire development process from like planning it out to building a team to traveling the world to make it happen to like doing a Kickstarter, developing the game, marketing it. Like the whole thing, start to finish, is videotaped. And you see like the ups and downs and the eventual very, very happy ending. And so he released it, but he also released the toolkit that he and his team kind of inadvertently built. It's called NESmaker. You can find it on the new 8bitheroes.com. We are not paid to say this. I am just promoting it because it is cool. Really cool software from a really cool guy. It's super duper cool. It is literally everything you need to put together an NES game from scratch to cartridge, all in one program, including the flashing, which is really cool. So I've been dipping my toes into that. Like, I've been writing music in Famitracker. I've been making some pixel art and sprites and animations, and I've been playing around with assembly code, and I actually have like some very rough playable results that I'm playing in an emulator. And they sell a kit with like a cartridge and effectively like a little like USB
EEPROM?
cable that you like plug the cart into, and you burn the data onto it and can play it on real hardware. I'm like, well, this is great.
That's so
awesome.
freaking cool. I'm sorry.
It's so cool.
That's amazing.
I think the most fun part, the whole film is about how artists can thrive under limitations. And as we know, the NES is very low tech by today's standards. Mm-hmm. The absolute maximum that a ROM, including the save file, can be is 512 kilobytes, not megabytes. 1/2 of 1 megabyte. So you have to push everything into that space, and it is very hard. But you have to remember, they fit the original Super Mario 1 in 40 kilobytes. So it's very doable. Other than that, every single tile and sprite can only have 3 colors plus black as a default. So you have 3 colors to express a character. And I've been working with that limitation, and I have come up with some pretty cool looking results. The other one that's really, as a lot of people know, I'm a musician and recording engineer by trade, and I went to college for it and everything. You only get 5 audio channels. You get a square wave, a triangle wave, a noise wave, and a digitizer, which for those who are not familiar with audio production sound like ooh, respectively, in that order. And you have to use a program like Famitracker to physically program. It doesn't create the music file like something like Pro Tools or Logic would. It basically writes sheet music. And you take that, you plug it into the program, and then the program shows the 6502 processor, hey, here's some sheet music. Now play it. Like, you're not actually putting files. And this is what's like amazing about the whole process, is that you are never putting files onto a cartridge. You're effectively just building a binary and hex code database that gives instructions to the processor. Like, every single tile on the screen, every single sprite has, like, every slot in which graphics can exist on the screen has a memory address. And it can be like, oh, at this address, draw this tile. The tile references this part of the code, and the code says, in this 8x8 square, this color, this color, this color, in these locations. And it is remarkably complex, but also so low level and surface level and easy to understand, even for like a hobbyist, if you like really like dig your teeth into it. And as someone who's really interested in computer science, this has been such a cool learning experience, just like digging into this old technology. And I'm sorry, I'm very excited about this process.
Is like, because like I've taken a brief look at NESmaker after you told me about it, and it's funny because I'm just gonna give some context. I was sent one of the new versions of RPG Maker to review last year, and it was pretty fun, you know. But NESmaker really, just by looking at it, I want to dive in because I'm getting the same feeling just looking at it and listening to you hear about it that I did when I first discovered RPG Maker's 03 and XP back in the day. Except this has more limitations, which I think is a good thing because I think limitations birth creativity. But also because you can write games to an actual cartridge, which is so... It's cool, you know?
It's amazing. It has the compiler, the assembler, everything in one program. And it's not expensive either. But if you're going to get it, absolutely check out the documentary. The New 8-Bit Heroes, once again, is the title. That will really like kind of kickstart your creative juices and everything. I cannot recommend that movie enough. Again, we have not been paid to say this.
I just think it's cool.
We do think it's cool. And are very
if they would like to pay us, we will. I mean, Jamie at stuffweplay.com/Jazzie at stuffweplay.com. Get in touch.
Why don't we start small and just invite them on the show first?
Oh, even better. Even, actually legit, I think I'd like that even better.
I would like that better. I know that for darn certain.
Yeah.
But that has been like the past week of my life. And it's funny you mentioned RPG Maker. Because I've gotten a little renewed interest in the PS1 recently, especially with the announcement of the PS1 Digital, which is a HDMI mod board, which I'm going to solder in because it looks like a very fun soldering project. But I totally forgot that RPG Maker 1 existed on the PS1. And you have to very arduously go type in all the letters one by one, but it's there and it does technically work. And I was like, this is amazing. I should play this. And then I also thought, wait a minute, it would be very difficult to do custom graphics or custom anything. It's basically like it's kind of like a game jam where it's just like, here's some standard assets, go make radically different things. And that's not dunking on RPG Maker for the PlayStation 1. That's just like the limitation. It's the nature of the beast. Yeah, exactly. So then I was looking at RPG Maker like XP and everything because, as I've said, I'm like a I'm like a 25-year-old boomer in a lot of ways. So I'm just like, oh, what's the oldest software I can run on my Windows XP machine with a CRT monitor for maximum nostalgia? And I was like, well, you can't go much further past the NES unless you start getting into like the Odyssey, and that's not homebrew that I feel a lot of nostalgia for. But
we're right at time, but I do have one question because you mentioned about NESmaker and Famitracker.
Yes.
Does NESmaker support? I know there weren't any American cartridges that use these, but does NESmaker support Famitracker tunes that say would take advantage of an extended chip like a VRC6 or 7 or even something that could use FDS sound?
So you're talking about things like the Japanese version of Castlevania 3, basically.
Yeah, or even like Lagrange Point or something.
I will search the forums for that. I am not sure. The program is a work in progress, and it is constantly being updated with new features and bug fixes and everything, and it is very new software. I feel like that's a thing that if it's not already in, that they will want to add and everything. Right. And also that's also contingent on you being able to source an NES board that has the chipset on it, which you can totally like make your own PCB and solder on your own chips.
Right.
If you know how to do that and are anal retentive enough to do such. But if you want to use just like the very like stock ready to go options, maybe not. I really like only having 5 channels though. For the tracks I've been doing, I've only been using 4 channels because I want to keep one open for my sound effects. And it's so refreshing going from like these big sweeping scores that I have to write of like all these parts and compressors and in pitch correction and all this like crazy stuff that's going on, and not to mention the harmonic shifters and all going from all that in a Pro Tools session down to 4 channels, 4 channels for 3 sounds, and that's it. And I'm like, oh, this is like a breath of fresh air. So I just plugged in my USB keyboard and beep boop beep boop, done. I can just like crank out a track in a day.
That sounds Fantastic. Famitracker itself is so robust too. Like I feel like we could do an entire episode on trackers though, you know, talk about like Mod Tracker and Famitracker and even like LSDJ and whatnot.
Yeah. I love Famitracker because not only does it have natural integration with NESmaker, it does exactly what it says it does, and that's it. It is very straightforward, and as someone of Irish German descent, I appreciate that efficiency. It's just like, the program does this, and there you go. Have fun. Just like, to the point. I like that. It's a utilitarian program. It's the people's tracker.
So to wrap this discussion up with a little bow, would you recommend both Famitracker and NESmaker, say, to people who are interested? Because this was I feel, a fairly surface level look. Would you recommend it to folks who, say, have no experience whatsoever with game creation or game composing?
If the NES is a console that you want to develop for, and make no mistake, the NES is a very good console to develop for. It really is. I can honestly recommend these programs for the experienced individual like myself, all the way down to the absolute beginner with like just basic computer skills. Like if you've never touched a line of code before, you're totally fine. You technically don't need to write any code in order to use this. Pretty much everything you need to work the program is either free or already on your computer to begin with. It's really like, the entry bar is so low now, and I cannot recommend it enough, even if you just want to have some fun with creativity and all that good stuff.
You love to see it.
You love to see it.
So with that mildly blew my mind.
No. I feel like I just like, hey, Jazzie, talk about your special interest. Okay.
Jazzie talks about special interest. Jamie grinning in the background like an idiot, like, that's cool. That's so freaking cool. But I can't say it out loud because I don't want to peak the mic more.
That's freaking cool.
That's pretty cool. I'll toast to that, bruh.
So yeah, that has been an entire episode of me talking about my special interests.
So, Jazzie, where can people find us if they have ideas for future episodes of Speedrun?
Well, I'm glad you asked. They can email the two of us, or one of the two of us, at jamie@stuffweplay.com or jazzie@stuffweplay.com, or help me. My brain just short-circuited.
It's all good. We also have a Stuff We Play Discord server because Stuff We Play is the YouTube channel brand we use, and Speedrun is a part of Stuff We Play. Speaking of which, subscribe to us on YouTube, join us on Patreon, and get episodes a week early at patreon.com/speedrun. And thank you again, Podbean, for helping us put on the show. So yeah. So I have been Jamie.
I've been Jazzie.
Thank you very much for listening. Stay classy, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.